This is Audiovisual Cultures, the podcast that explores different areas of the arts and cultural production with me, Paula Blair. Visit patreon.com/AV Cultures to find out more and to join the pod. Well, hello. I hope you're ready for another Audiovisual Cultures. We're going a little bit dark and possibly gothy with this one, with my very special guest, the artist and shirt designer Slayer-1Artwork, who is otherwise sometimes known as Chloe Gibson. A very warm welcome, Chloe. How are you doing today?
I'm okay, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I love the fact you said about the gothic part as well. That gives me a little bit of an internal theme.
Great. Yeah, when I was snooping around on your Instagram, it struck a chord because a younger me sang out there. So I think we'll probably have a bit of common ground with some of your interests. Whereabouts do we find you at the moment then?
I live in Leeds. Art is sort of like my passion project. It's like, whereas like my actual work, I work as like an IT engineer, really.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when people ask me what I actually do for a living, it's always quite a drastic change. Yeah, and plus I don't obviously get all like gothed up before when I'm going into work. So like when people at work see that I design shirts, like what? Like,
well, I mean, we're all more than one thing, so that's really great, I think.
oh yeah, the variety is the spice of life, in my opinion. I've done so much. I have so many different hobbies, and it's important to not see them as like fads or like temporary things. It's like you should enjoy your hobbies, and if you get really good at them, you just should do them just to enjoy them. Like I've done so much stuff in terms of artwork, in terms of like other sort of hobbies, and I won't say I'm amazing at any of them, but it's about doing it for enjoyment.
That's just it, isn't it? Yeah, it's doing it for your own love of it and what you get out of it. And then if other people get something out of that too, that's even better. That's a bonus.
Yeah, definitely.
So you do quite a range of different things. And the one that's probably most springing to mind, and you mentioned there that you do design shirts, you design artwork for t-shirts and stuff. So maybe we could start there and then we can sort of unpick all of the things that you do and your creative life, I suppose we can say it that way.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Also, I meant to say earlier, when you asked me like where I was from, I was genuinely surprised that you were like, are you from Yorkshire? Because like, unfortunately, I don't have a really nice voice. I've got such a strong Yorkshire accent.
It's beautiful to me. I love the Yorkshire accent.
Oh man, it's just, I always get jealous of everyone else because I'm like, gosh, I sound like a nice girl who's been punched in the throat a couple times.
No, don't say that. I get really annoyed when people say, oh, I come from Leeds and I don't like my accent. It's gorgeous to me. I love it. I love all Northern. I mean, I'm a Nordie from another island, but I love all the Northern English accents. They're gorgeous to me.
I love it on other people. It's just like when I hear myself over, I'm like, I'm going to hear myself in this podcast and be like, why?
No.
But yeah, sorry. So like back to the shirts. I've been doing artwork for quite a while, but I think we'll go into that later. But shirt-wise, I started deciding to design them in the first lockdown, so about a year ago.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, that was when I was like, right, I'm going to make shirts and I'm going to do it properly. It's going to be really cool. I never really had good art software or anything, and I think the first ever shirt I did, it was based on, like, I've not actually posted it anywhere. It was based off of a canvas, like a Sphinx cat canvas that I did. And it was like pink with clouds behind it and a white cat in the middle. And I redrew that design and I printed it onto some white shirts and tie-dyed them just to see what it'd look like, see how people would receive them. And I still have a few of them, and a few of my friends have like asked for them and stuff. But that was the first sort of drive I had to do shirts. And it was only like a little while in that I really came into my own with the designs I sort of wanted to do, because I knew that sort of tie-dye wasn't really me. It wasn't my style or my passion, but it was a step forward. And obviously from then I was doing slightly, I think I started off doing like ram skulls and different stuff like that. I like my designs to be quite minimalistic in a way, but also like the sort of like detailed in a minimalistic way. Like there's a lot of stippling going on. There's a lot of sort of small hints, and I've always been really into that. And I just thought I didn't, it's not like a money project for me at all. It's definitely a passion one. Just the fact that people like my shirts enough to want to wear them, the fact that there's people out there just wearing my stuff is amazing, because I'm like, oh gosh, like you must really like it. You don't have to, like, people who don't know, you don't need to, don't want to impress you. Just like, oh, I think it's really cool and I want to buy it.
Yeah, they are quite distinctive. Oh, I spent many hours as a teenager going to quite gothy shops and metal shops and stuff, and hooking through the t-shirt racks and everything, and they can become a bit generic
Yeah.
and your stuff is so bespoke. And although you might say very broadly, there might be quite gothic themes, darkness, death, maybe something to do with possibly the occult or something, you cats with three eyes and all sorts of stuff. There's something still a bit different. There's a distinction to them. I think the drawing element as well, like you say, there are details there that you can notice. Where do the ideas come from for the types of content in the drawings that you do and the prints that you do?
It's actually quite weird. When I say they just come to me, it's not like I'm just like walking down the road and I get a sudden bow of inspiration. It's like, there's so many amazing artists that I've seen, and it's like, it's sort of, you don't realize, but it catalogs in your head really.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, like, you don't realize you're taking it in, and because it's sort of like art all around you and all that stuff, where it's like, when it comes to, I think art inspires art. So, you have music, TV shows, actual art, and all that comes together. I could just be doing something completely like pointless, or I could, I could be cooking. I could think, oh, like in my head, I'd be like, oh, it'd be really cool, this on this shirt, or having this design like this. Because I feel like, especially since I started drawing, I've always had a lot of ideas just sort of pop into my head, or I'll see like a kitty and be like, oh, I want to draw a cat. Oh, I need to think about how I want to draw this cat, and I'm like, oh, I want it to have a distinct style. With the neon cat, it's not really as gothic. I could have turned it into a really gothic design. I chose to make it like neon pink and neon blue because I liked the contrast between that and the black. It's just stuff like that. Mood as well. I've noticed I get really good ideas when I'm really sad and I don't have a drive to draw them at the time. But I sort of take those feelings and I write them down and I project them into my artwork later on. There's all sorts of stuff, and sometimes I just think that'd look really cool. Or I think about maybe a tattoo that I'd want. I have like quite a few tattoos, but I think about a tattoo that I'd want and then I end up making a design instead. And I'm like, oh no, it's perfect as a design. I don't need that yet. There's a few artists. There's someone called Danny Rudy on Instagram. I've been tattooed by her a few times and she's really quite an inspiring artist as well. I'd seen her stuff sort of like, again, like when, especially in Leeds, like there's a lot of tattoo artists who talk to each other and share each other. And I just saw some of her artwork and it was really heavily stylized. And I thought it was really nice. And I looked at her stuff and I bought, like a tarot card commission from her. I got a bunch of different sort of commissions from her. Went and got tattooed by her, and just her style in general, I thought, oh, it'd be really cool to do like sort of like a ghost. I think it would just like being in a tattoo studio, seeing all this artwork around me. I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to do like a ghost design, because I've got like a tattoo similar to that on my wrist. And I was like, oh, I really want to do it with some like Japanese writing underneath. Specifically, it's like abake, which is like it's basically a generic term for ghost. There's a lot of different references in Japanese culture towards ghosts and specific names for them, so I had to make sure that it was like the correct one. And it's just sort of like a generalized one. It's just sort of like that in general. That ideas just sort of come to me sometimes. I feel like that was a really long-winded answer for it.
Not at all. It's a podcast. It's the whole point.
We've got time.
It's great that you have that headspace and just space to be able to play around with those things.
Well, I went to high school with like one of my closest friends called Matt. He actually does art as well. So basically, when we used to live together, we used to sit and, well, even before we lived together, we used to sit and draw together. And his artwork is something that's inspired me as well. If you ever wanted to look at his Instagram or anything, it's like Matt is a cop or Matt draws. He's got two different ones, but basically I've seen his artwork develop over however many years we've been friends, and it's cool because watching him get better and watching him change his style inspires me. I've always been I've seen a lot of my friends, and like I could name so many amazing artists I've seen progress, but especially him, because I've literally sat and drawn next to him. There's endless photos of us drawing together, and we'd sort of we'd put on an album and we'd just sort of sit there and draw, and we'd both come up with really cool stuff and be like, oh, something that's really cool about that is we actually bounce ideas off of each other. There was a tie-dye idea. The first shirt idea I had, I spoke to him about it. It was his sort of idea to do like a tie-dye design with like, something else. We spoke about that, and that was really cool because that was sort of like his encouragement in a way, like even like not really consciously, like definitely contributed to like what I'm doing now. Especially like when you're friends with someone, you think, oh, like they're only saying it to be nice. But when you have a genuine creative drive, it's really good because the people around you, if they have one as well, it's amazing because they can help you with it. Gosh, I'm trying to think of other, like there's a guy called Ben Redfield. He's another amazing artist. There's so many. I met him at conventions when I used to go like little comic conventions and stuff. Some of his prints were like these like minimalistic Bioshock or DC prints, and I remember buying one for my sister, and we're really close friends. It's amazing. I ended up going to the same conventions as a seller that I met him at when I was a buyer, which again is really cool. And seeing his stuff has always been a massive source of inspiration for me. It's his Instagram picture as well. Again, he's just called like Ben Redfield Art, something like that. he did me like a massive skull piece, and it was on a giant canvas. And when I first moved, and it was like a moving present, and he spent hours and hours on it. And it was like half black, half part pink in different places. And I've recently moved again, and that's like one of the best things that I get to hang it up on the living room wall now. Like this amazing, like sort of abstract skull painting. It's brilliant. Yeah, again, like I went like a really long way around it, but it just really helps having people around you who are creative and also honest and can help you push yourself in order to like really go forward. Like my friend Ben actually helped me with my latest design. I spoke to him about it because sometimes I think it's really important to like not be really self-involved and be like, oh, I wonder, does this look right? Does this help? Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so important. Even if you're not directly collaborating with each other, but just that collective atmosphere, because that's how we all improve, isn't it? By speaking candidly with each other.
Oh, definitely. I'm actually in like a sort of an art group with some of my friends. Again, I have so many art friends from so many different places. All of them are amazing artists. My friend Rich Mulholland, he's a really good artist as well, and I knew him since I was quite a bit younger. And we used to go over and we used to draw together, and sort of like play guitar. We'd paint Warhammer stuff, and again, he's someone else who like keeps progressing and progressing. Again, I'll send stuff to him. We have like a little group chat that we call Art Family, and we're all like artists in there. And again, there was a guy who tattooed me called Matt. He's really good. Huckleberry Hank, I think he's still called. I can't remember on the, like when you talk, you're like, oh, I can't remember what everyone's called it. But yeah, I've got so many amazing artists and people in my life to like really help me go forward. My boyfriend's really good as well. He's not like, he does draw definitely, and it's cool because he's sort of like sat and drawn with me quite a bit, and he's like, oh, I'm not that good, but like he's actively helped me with some of my designs that I've done recently, and it's really cool to have people around you who are creative and encourage creativity rather than you need to do adult stuff, you need to do this or that.
Yeah, that's it. We get untrained quite quickly, I think, quite early on in life. Well, that's for kids.
Yeah.
Drawing and colouring pencils, that's for kids. Now you have to be a proper grown up and go to university, and you can't do those little doodles anymore and that sort of stuff. I think it's been great that there's been a bit of a resurgence of adult colouring and people being encouraged to just sit and draw. It doesn't matter if you think you're any good or not, but just do it, just get that creativity out of you, because we all have it. We just learn to ignore it, I think.
Absolutely, definitely, because when I started drawing, like there's always this misconception that drawing is natural talent. It's not, because when I first started drawing, and I mean like not like a kid doing random drawings, like I didn't draw consciously for ages. It wasn't until the end of high school, which like in terms of all my peers, it was really late. And I remember being like, I really love comics and I want to draw comic stuff. I don't care if I'm bad, I want to practice and get better and better. And that's exactly what I did. I'm not, I won't say I'm a perfect artist by any stretch, and I've got so much to learn and so much I could go into. That's the beauty of it, because I never had this pre-talent made. It was all down to hard work and commitment and just really trying. And I've done like loads of different progress pictures of stuff I've done when I was younger. My grandma used to be amazing. She used to be amazing for sort of encouraging me. Like I used to show her really like bad drawings. Like I look at them now and like they were straight up bad. My grandma, she didn't even understand what most of them were, because it was sort of like, and she'd be like, oh, it's amazing, it's so beautiful, you're so talented, you'll be a famous artist one day. And like she was probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. And it was so cool to be able to have such a light as well supporting me when she could. Like even my shirts, I mean, unfortunately she passed away recently, but she had managed to see some of my shirts and stuff, which were amazing. She was saying how great they were, and it's so cool. Like I've got such great support from people. I mean, I have a twin sister, and she's not really into artwork, as in like drawing and stuff, but she's really into comics, and she's always been really, really supportive, especially when, because like unfortunately not everyone is going to support your passions, and not everyone's going to be nice to you, because unfortunately it's not that nice sort of world. I'll always make a point of trying to be great to anyone who wants to talk to me. If anyone ever wanted to message me about artwork or message me about anything, like I'm pretty open to stuff like that. I'll help anyone. But like my sister, she's amazing. She's always supported me with my work, and even then it's like similar to my grandma. It's like I feel like I could have shown her something really bad, and she'll always look for the good in it, and she'll be like, oh, this is so good because of this. She's even like bought some of my shirts off me, and it's like, oh god, like you're my sister, I don't want you to buy them. And she's like, no, I'm buying them. But yeah, she's had loads of my art over the years, and some of it I'm like, oh god, I can't believe I did that. And she's like, no, I love it. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean I don't. But yeah, I think having people around you who support you and people who really value you as a person and value your hobbies are really good. Or having anyone to support you, I think, especially if you want to start drawing or you want to start stuff like that, just watch some videos on YouTube. That's exactly what I did. I watched some videos of just a guy drawing Captain America and Wolverine. I sat in front of the screen and I just sat there and did it myself, and I was like, oh gosh, this actually looks really good. I look back at it now and I'm like, oh, maybe not. But at the time I was like so blown away that I was like, oh, maybe I can draw. And I'd sort of like, even now now. Like my boyfriend said the other day, I came in and went, I want to do a design. And I sat down in the space of like a few hours, like after work, I just done a design and posted it. And it was like, I can't believe that you did all that just then. Like you just came in, you're like, this is what I'm going to do, and did it. And it's like, unfortunately, not every day is like that, but that was a particularly good day.
That is so great to hear that you've got that support network. That really heartens me actually to hear that. I've spent some time in Leeds, and it strikes me as well that even just Leeds as a city is really supportive of art, and you've got some really fantastic galleries, independent ones, little ones, as well as the big ones like the Henry Moore Institute and everything. It's just such a vibrant place for art in general, so it's brilliant to hear somebody having that kind of atmosphere and really able to flourish and grow in there. That's fantastic.
Definitely. So, I mean, I can't say, it's sort of like been easy, but definitely being able to have people who do, because I've had, the opposite end of the spectrum where people sort of knock you down. It's awful. And, when I started selling at comic conventions, that was a really difficult time because you get like really harsh critics at that point. And it's like, oh, like I'm just here to sell like my artwork. I'm not here for, I mean, I'm always open to critique anyway. It's just some people are just unfortunately not very nice. And I think, especially when you're around other people, you should always want to encourage people, because I've always believed in like positive reinforcement or positive like pushing people. Like I'm always happy to criticize someone in a positive way. If someone says, tell me everything that's wrong with this, I was like, well, I will, but as long as you let me tell you what's right with it as well. But yeah, it's great. And also in Leeds as well, one of the amazing conventions, I mean, it's moved to Harrogate now, but Thought Bubble Festival, that was like an art festival, and that was one of the first proper conventions I went to. I used to go like religiously with my best friend and my twin sister, and my friend Amy as well, and we'd all go and just look at all the amazing artwork. And it's something we'd planned for like all year. We'd be like, oh gosh, there's all these amazing comic artists and writers coming. Oh, we need to do this. We need to plan this. And then we'd go there and just have such an amazing time, see such amazing artwork. I actually met such a lovely woman called Valentina, and she ended up, I think I met her at Thought Bubble, and again, her work was so inspiring. That was another artist who's been amazing to me. She ended up designing my first ever tattoo. She designed it for me, and gosh, she was so lovely. And she's helped with my artwork as well, and she's bought one of my, like, she moved back to Italy. I miss her all the time, but she moved back to Italy, and she still bought one of my shirts. She was like, I need one of your shirts. You're like, I need one. So I sent one over to her, and oh gosh, it was amazing. But yeah, supportive wise, yeah, I think it's really important. And personally, I try to make sure that I'll support anyone and everyone. I mean, I might self-deprecate, but I don't allow my friends or anyone else creative wise to self-deprecate. That's not how it works in my house. But yeah, I think especially if you're wanting to start out, just don't be so critical of yourself. That's probably the advice I'd have given to myself. Even now, I need to follow that advice, because people think that they have to be perfect straight away. We're in a society where we feel like we have to do everything right the first time, and it's not like that at all. I'm sure if I'd have given up, I wouldn't have done any shirts. I'm sure there's a lot of people who probably would have thought they were missing out, and it's quite warming to know that people really like my artwork, even if sometimes I don't like it as much. Like there's so many people out there think, oh gosh, you're really, really good. I'm like, it's sort of like imposter syndrome a little bit, like, oh.
Yeah, I recognize it well, and it comes up quite a lot on the podcast actually, is people trying to get over that hurdle of the self-criticism, and it can be almost to the point of self-loathing, because you're so anxious about, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready. And it's something even me myself I have to overcome. You have to there gets to a point where you have to just stop preparing and planning, and you have to just try it and be brave and put it out there and stop thinking about it, just do it anyway.
Oh, exactly.
As you say, it can pay off, because even if, I think that's a really great way of putting it, is even if you don't like it yourself, someone out there is going to love it.
Oh, definitely. I was always, what's the word? I was quite apprehensive. Even now, like I only recently started an Etsy, because I thought, oh, if I start an Etsy, I just don't want to do it. And then if I don't get any sales, I'm going to beat myself up. But it's like, right, okay. I need to think about this logically. Like I've had loads of sales from a bunch of different people. All I'm doing is making it more accessible to more people. So I thought, right, my boyfriend did a little bit of pushing, and we got some really cool photos, and we'd put it all up. And I was like, oh, actually, like I'm quite happy with that. And I've actually ordered some prints recently of a couple of my designs, just to put them on Etsy and sell them, just see what happens. It's like, if I don't sell them, it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that I'm not getting them out there enough, and I just have to keep pushing and keep doing designs and keep going.
Yeah, that's where you have to get into the world of the SEOs and how to make your stuff findable, because there's so much stuff out there that getting it findable is the issue, because the audience is there for it. It's just getting to them is the obstacle. But I've had a look around your Etsy shop, and I mean, it's a really well constructed shop, and your photographs are fantastic. fantastic. Even just down to details like your lighting's really great and your posing's really great, you know, and the shirts look really well on you and stuff. The designs just come up, you know, really clearly, you know, so it's a really great looking shop as well. So, you know, you're putting the work in.
Oh yeah, definitely. My best friend's mum, she's like super gothy as well, and I stayed with her for a while, and she was really supportive of all my shirts as well. Like she's always been quite, she's just such a force of nature, is that woman. It's just amazing to like her support as well. Like I remember I first sent her like the first sort of photo shoot of my shirts I did, and she was like, "Oh, you look so beautiful, you look so amazing, oh, they look so good." Again, her support is absolutely amazing as well. With the Etsy shop, I was quite nervous, but with the support of my boyfriend and stuff, I got it up. I was like, you know what? Even if I don't get any sales at all, I've had one sale actually recently. Like I've only like recently started it, but yeah, I got a sale through that, which were absolutely amazing. And I think I've got a good review on it. But either way, it's really cool how, although I technically like physically did a lot of it myself, it's like just by other people being so supportive and nice and helpful. It's amazing. There was a friend of mine called James, and I met his sort of like roommates, and one of them is called Mike, and I remember he saw my artwork. He just like sort of had him around to house, and he saw my artwork. He's like, "Oh, I'm actually working on a comic." I ended up inking some comic work for him,
Oh,
which was
wow.
such a big job for me, and it was amazing, yeah, because he's another amazing artist, and it was so cool to be able to collaborate with one of my friends. Like when people say you can't work with your friends, yes, you can. Like as long as they're the right friends, yes, you can. It's really cool to have had opportunities just
Yeah.
based through people that I just know, and I'm always about promoting my friends or bringing them up. I'm really lucky to have a lot of people in my life who are really supportive. Obviously, there's so many to list, but a lot of them, like my friend James, Amy, who I used to go to Thought Bubble with, like Matt, all them, that they're all really. I think I'm just gonna say supportive. I feel like that's the only word I can say. That it's just weird how like incredibly supportive they all are, and it's without taking. Like they'll just give support just because they can. And I think that's really important, and I think a lot more people should try to be like that in terms of motivating the people around you. Because I don't have a lot of motivation for myself sometimes, but I'll always try to motivate the people around me because I think it's amazing. Like it's sort of infectious. That's what I found. Creativity and positive, it's all infectious around people. And if you can try and be that sort of force when you can, it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I think that's another really important point. Socially, I think as well as being taught to move away from the kid stuff, inverted commas, we're also trained to compete with each other. And I think what you've said is just so important about actually you need to ignore that, because that's really awful advice, and helping each other out and taking joy from each other's little successes, you know. And to be a successful artist, you don't have to be Damien Hirst heights and, you know, be able to employ thousands of people to make your work for you and be a multimillionaire. You know, successful artists can mean you're getting by, people love your work, and you love your work, or at least you love it enough to want to keep going.
Yeah.
And that is just so special. You know, I think you've just hit a vein of something so special, and it's so great to hear about it.
Oh man, like I've seen it in other places as well, and then that inspires me. Like I said about when I was getting a tattoo by Danny the other day. I've met another one of the artists there before called Tasha Wild. She's another really amazing tattooist, amazing artist. Everyone there is. There's about 4 people in this studio called Craw Tattoo, and it's like another Leeds one. But I've never been to a tattoo studio and seen people so supportive of each other, because it was like Tasha, Danny, Steve, Lauren, and like literally you getting tattooed by one person, and then other people come over and they say, "Oh, you're smashing it, you're doing really good," or they'll ask for positive feedback. And I've not seen such a supportive atmosphere like so strongly as well. It's not like, oh, they're just walking past and looking over and being like, "Oh, it's all right." It's like they actively come over and encourage people as they're doing it, saying, "Oh, you're smashing that out, you're doing this really well." To me, I find that really inspiring, especially like because it makes me think, oh gosh, like I want to go home and draw. Like these people are all so good. Like I'd really love to do something like that myself, that sort of thing.
Yeah, is that something you'd ever consider? Because I mean, some of your artworks, I think if you were into doing finer lines or something, I don't know. I don't have any tattoos. I'm a bit ignorant about how it works. But is that something that probably, I imagine it takes quite a lot of training,
Oh,
but do you think that's something that you'd want to try to do, or at least design tattoos at some point as well?
there was a point in time where I thought, you know what, I really want to do tattooing. I was looking into like tattoo apprenticeships, and I was making like a portfolio of like different stuff. And then it was sort of like I thought, I need to like give it absolutely everything. Like I can't just, because I mean there's not a lot of funding in terms of tattooing, and I sort of had bills to pay, and I just thought, gosh, like what's gonna really make me happy? like, because if I do this career, I'm gonna have to give it everything. Like, I have so much respect for people who are tattooing, and not only that, that people who are such incredible artists, like some of the ones I'm lucky enough to know, and God, they've literally had to put everything into it. They've had to try really hard to get where they are, and it's like, is that the path that I want to take? I'm like, I don't, as much as I'd love the idea of it, I don't think I'd be able to do it. And I'm not saying that like artistically wise I couldn't train myself, or I'm sure that anyone can do anything if they put their mind to it, but it's like, I feel like for me, I feel like it might not have been the right path for me. I actually want to do concept art for game design.
Oh, wow.
And when I first applied to uni, I got into one of them, but the other one I didn't. I failed the portfolio stage. So I showed them my artwork and they said, you know what, you're not good enough to come in. I remember that being like such a knock to my confidence. I was like, oh God, this was a few years ago now. I was like, oh God, I'll never be good enough to do anything. And I ended up just getting like an apprenticeship. Then it turned into a full-time job, and it was just in the IT industry because I'm sort of like happy in that industry. And I thought, oh, I can do game design on the side, or I can do artwork on the side. I just remember I got like a new job in the last year or so, the last 6 months. And I just thought, oh man, it's so weird how different my life would have been if I'd have stuck to art as a full-time career. Because I feel like I need lots of different purposes. And I feel like doing art solely, although it'd be amazing, I'd love to do that. I don't know if it'd be the best way for me, because I feel like I get a lot of creative bursts and I do them because I'm doing other things. Like they sort of come into my mind as I'm doing other things. But plus, I've always been a fan of like branching out into different stuff. I did a little bit of 3D modeling at one point. There was a friend of mine called Carl's art. He did a really amazing like 3D model of a hammer that I saw recently, and gosh, like it was like, oh man, maybe if I put a bit more time into it, if I could get close to that good. But I've done like a little bit of 3D modeling. I did some clay sculpting. Gosh, I've done like paintings on canvases. I've done acrylic paw painting. What else? I've done like quite a bit of digital stuff. I've done like pixel art. I do a lot of baking and stuff like that. And I try and be quite artistic in my baking as well. Like I did Pokeball shaped like hot chocolate bombs and stuff like that. Yeah, the next step is trying to make Pokemon shaped marshmallows, which I did try and it didn't go very well, but you know what I mean? That was really cool. So yeah, in terms of stuff like baking or cooking, and then there's loads of different stuff. Like I do a bit of spray paint art, I'll make stencils. I've made Pokeball terrariums, which is like little Pokeball with like a Pokemon inside it, and like the top of it's clear so you can see in, and it's got like loads of terrain around it. And
Wow.
I've started doing like little designs for floppy disks and like making them into magnets, which is cool. Like
Really?
yeah, my boyfriend got me some of these like floppy disk things for my birthday, and I had a sticker on them for like The Witcher. So I thought, oh, I wonder if I could do that. And basically, what I did, I got some floppy disks, and then I've been doing like little designs for stickers, and then I've ordered some of them in, and then I've glued magnets to the back of them, so you can have them as a magnet on your fridge. I just feel like that's like quite different, and I feel like it's quite cool as well. It's just cool how you can sort of get inspired by stuff like that.
That sounds class. I'm old enough to have used floppy disks back in the old days. The whole retro thing, I think that taps into that so nicely. That's the sort of thing that probably people would buy as well, to be honest. People my age.
It's really cool branching out. I mean, I got a Friday the 13th VHS. Like it was like a VHS cassette that was like painted over with like Friday the 13th, like Jason's mask on it, which I found really cool. And it had like LED lights in it. And I've always been a fan of like repurposing stuff.
Yeah.
I make a lot of like lamps out of glass bottles. So I'll clean out a glass bottle, I'll put like a black vinyl sticker on the front and a light in the top. And it's really cool how you can like repurpose old stuff. Like I'm always thinking about new stuff that I can do or new stuff that I can make. Because I've suffered quite badly with depression. And it's been something I've had to deal with for quite a while. And I feel like a lot of my motivation comes from doing things for other people. What I've found is creating things for other people makes me really happy. And that's what tends to get me out of a slump. If I'm having a really rough time, or like if I'm having a bit of an episode, a lot of the ways I come out of it is doing something nice for someone else and motivating myself to get out of bed and do something for someone else. Like the other day, my friend was moving house, so I've made like a cloud lamp. It's like a lamp. It looks like a cloud when you turn it on. It's really cool. I think it's really important to like be really creative. Not everyone wants to be creative, and that's fine. But if you want to be and you say no to yourself because you don't think it'll be good, like that's the completely wrong thing to do, because there's something really like humbling and something that can make you really proud of trying something new and it working out. I was going to go to a pottery class before the last lockdown, and a lot of my friends were like, why would you want to do that? I was like, I don't know. I want to know how to make a mug. Like, leave me alone. Let me, like blacksmithing as well. There's such cool stuff that's accessible to people now. It'd be amazing to be able to just try new ways to, how cool is it? Like, because, I'm used to like doing designs, I did some designs which I put on mugs. Although I have shirts on my Etsy, a lot of the times people are like, oh, I really like this design. I'd really want it on a keyring, or I'd really want it, on a mug. And I'm like, that can be done. Just ask me, I'll do it. Like, I'm more than happy to accommodate anyone. There was a lovely woman who ordered a print from me, and she actually wanted one of my designs as a tattoo, and asked if she could show it to a tattoo artist. And I was like, gosh, as long as I'm credited, anyone can do anything. That's amazing. The fact that someone wanted some of my artwork, not just as a shirt, but as something permanent on the body, was just like absolutely amazing. Like, and it was just sort of like a design which I thought was really cool. I did it. It was like the first coffin design I did, like a tree and like a graveyard. The stereotypical. Like, it just screams gothic. And gosh, that was super amazing to have someone ask me that, and that was quite recent. It's really cool to be able to be creative, and I think people limiting themselves just because they think they can't do it are just missing out massively. And it's like, when I say, oh, you can do anything if you try, like, obviously that's within reason, but like, you literally, like, I never thought I'd be capable of what I'm doing now. I'm sure that in however many years time I'll be like, oh gosh, I didn't realize I was capable of doing that, or I didn't realize I was capable of doing this. And it's a matter of just like giving it a go. If you fail, so what? It doesn't matter. You're allowed to fail. It's part of being human.
That's it. And if you enjoy it, actually, that's the main thing. Because even if it turns out maybe not quite how you would imagine something might turn out, if you enjoy the process of it, that's the thing that matters.
Oh, definitely. Like, it doesn't matter if you're good or not. It matters if you're having a good time. You could spend hours and hours, making, you could be sculpting something new with clay, and it might not look perfect, but you know what? You've put a lot of time and effort into it, and you should be proud of yourself for committing to something for that amount of time and putting everything into it. And I've always found the idea of homemade gifts amazing.
Yeah.
I learned how to make jam, I learned how to make soap, I learned how to make candles, loads of stuff like that. Again, like, just sort of like a little bit of a creative pull, and it's like, oh gosh, I'm going to make a massive soap that looks like a skull. I'm going to do that. And it's just like, which I actually have done. I've made candles that look like skulls and all sorts, but it's like,
nice.
it's that sort of creative stuff where it's like, it didn't take a lot of talent. All it takes is time and effort. And obviously sometimes, depending on what you want to do, a little bit of money, but usually, like, you don't need money to have pen and paper and draw, like, or anything like that. And if you're limiting yourself just because you think you can't do it, man, missing out. I'm telling you. If someone's listening to this and they don't think they can do it, please do it. For me, you don't know me, but I want you to do it.
Excellent. I need to remember to take that out for the teaser. That's excellent.
Oh man.
This is just a quick interruption to say you can find out more at audiovisualcultures.wordpress.com, where you can also sign up to our monthly newsletter straight to your inbox and listen to our latest episodes. Now keep enjoying this one. There is more great stuff to come. As well as your own original drawings, you mentioned you've done a lot of comic conventions and things, and I've seen on your Instagram that you've done a bit of, I suppose we could call it fan art or art inspired by other things. So there's a lot of Pokemon in there, but what really speaks to me is Futurama and the 1990s X-Men and stuff. That's my X-Men, So I was wondering if you wanted to tell us a bit about that as well.
That's got like a special place in my heart. There's like sort of traditional stuff like that. There's comics I started reading were like the classic X-Men stuff. The first tattoo I ever got was an X-Men tattoo.
Really?
I've got an X-Men tattoo on my right thigh, and I wear it with pride. I used to cosplay as Rogue at conventions as well.
She's my favorite.
Oh man, I cosplayed as like the 90s animated version of Rogue. That was super cool. Yeah, it's like, I remember that because that's what I started doing. It was traditional stuff, and I never really ventured a lot with color at first, but I remember what I used to do is, when I used to live at home, I used to draw every night. I did it like every day for a year, and I was committing to it. And all the time I'd get inspired by just looking at other people's interpretations of artwork or reading a comic, and I'd be like, oh, I want to redraw that, or oh, this is really cool. And it was really important for me as well when I was learning how to draw, by looking at what other people are doing. And because essentially the best way to learn is by copying, and I mean that in the sense of, you look at someone's muscle, you copy it to draw it, and that's how you learn anatomy, stuff like that. You look at how things work together. But in terms of artwork in general, a great way to find your own style is to copy a load of other people's and use it, see how they do things, see how, the way they use the brush strokes, see the way they create a drawing, how they create it and stuff. Is like, that's why today it's amazing. There's like loads of stuff on YouTube you can just get up. I'm sure there's loads of people doing little TikToks for acrylic paints and stuff like that. And it's amazing how accessible, a lot of like the stepping stones to like drawing is. And like, for me, is to sit there, get my sketchbook out, like, right, I'm going to draw something really cool. And obviously not always I drew something really cool, but sometimes I do like big comic pieces, and I always felt incredibly satisfied because I was like, oh man, I spent hours and hours on this like piece, but it's like, it's turned out so well. well. Like I did a big Hellboy one and I did a Kick-Ass one. And it's like, to me, I know they're not perfect. I did them like quite early on, but like, gosh, even now I'm like, I can't believe I drew that. I got a blank comic, like a comic with a blank cover, and I drew Rogue and Gambit on it. I think it's still on my Instagram. It was like referenced off of, I think, X-Men 177, because it was like one of my favorite covers, and I redrew it on a different variant of Rogue and Gambit. And even to this day, I think it's one of the best pieces I've ever done. It's like holds such a close place in my heart. It doesn't matter however many years have passed. It's like, oh man, that's really cool. And that's from like an internal nerdy standpoint rather than rather than bigging myself up. It's like personally, I just love it just because like I know exactly what went into it, how much time and effort went into it. And I've only recently started doing traditional stuff again. A lot of it was a way to sort of like try and give gifts or try and get commissions and stuff. I had some commissions, or like, I did my boyfriend a drawing for like a Christmas and stuff, stuff like that. And it was like, I knew he really liked Pokemon. I was like, you know what, I bet I could draw a bunch of different Pokemon. And like me and my sister both love Futurama. And for her birthday, I got like a voice message from Billy West.
Oh, nice.
And that was super amazing. I thought, how cool would it be if I drew a like Bender as well? And then she had, she had a bunch of different Futurama stuff. So that was really cool, being able to sort of like flex those traditional muscles again and get a bit of colour on, because I've not coloured in ages. And there's something really satisfying about having a physical thing in front of you, like a physical piece of paper, and like drawing on it. And don't get me wrong, I love digital art. Digital art is amazing. Like you can do so much. I don't want to say so much more, but you can do so much different stuff on digital art than you can, like on traditional. Like if you, make a mistake inking on traditional, that's it, game over. Like if you make a big mistake, whereas you make one on Clip Studio Paint, which is what I use, it's just Control-Z, like undo, okay, I can keep going. But yeah, there's something really satisfying about having a physical copy and having it framed. I'm actually planning on doing some drawings on like skateboard decks at some point, or like wooden chopping boards, stuff like that. I mean, I'm still sort of thinking about exactly which way I'm going to go, but I've got like so much creative stuff like going on in my head at the minute. It's like, oh man, I can't wait to share it with everyone and show, hopefully inspire some other people. That'd be really cool.
Bro. I was wondering as well, Chloe, especially with putting your work on clothes and on all the other sorts of things you're mentioning there, is there anything in particular that you've learned or are in the process of learning that you think might be useful to share? What's that journey been like? Because you've mentioned that, you've the improvement, the development over time. I was just wondering, if you have anything that might be good for listeners, if this ever gets to somebody who is maybe in that starting point or before that even.
So for me, sometimes the most expensive isn't the best quality. I learned that the hard way. And I remember I thought when I first started doing shirts, I had to get them from this really, and it wasn't that it was bad quality at all. It was just incredibly expensive, and it was completely counterproductive because, I mean, you don't do everything for money, but you don't want to be like completely indebted because of it. And I remember at first I was like, oh, I need to go to the best place and get the best stuff. You don't, as long as it's a high quality print, like the place I get them printed from has a guarantee that if it fades or if it, if anything happens, you can get it reprinted and get it sent out, which is what, I'd offer to any of my customers or anyone who wants to buy something. And that to me is more important than spending loads and loads of money, because I wanted it to be accessible for people. When I say I don't make a lot of profit, I really don't. It's literally like, it's just enough to sort of like keen it over. And for me, it's just, don't think you have to put all your money into it to make it work. Do your research and don't be afraid to change. You might do a design that you think could look good on a shirt, and you could put it on a shirt and think, oh, it doesn't look that good now, but it might look good on a print. It might look good on a keychain, or, you know what I mean? There's so much stuff. You don't have to limit yourself to one thing, and try different color schemes. I found, so each time I do a design, a lot of the times I'll do more than one version of it just to see what it looks like. Like, don't be afraid to chop and change different things. And if you're a traditional artist, just copy, like as in get a physical copy, like, go to a printer, copier, print off a couple extra copies and color those in, or, do inking on those ones so you can get, your final design. You'll have multiple versions then. And it sounds kind of cliche, but don't give up on things. Take breaks, but don't give up on them. It's been a lot of times I thought, oh gosh, I'm not any good. I spent quite a while being like, I'm not good at art. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I regret it because I was so busy putting all this doubt on myself that I probably missed a lot of creative opportunities. And there's a lot of art that people aren't going to see because of a result of me sort of like self-loathing. Whereas like now it's like, you know what, I sort of accept, like, I'm going to take a break. I don't need to draw every night. I don't need to do this. It's like, why do people do things like drawing in general? They do it because it's fun. They do it because they enjoy it. That's why you should do things. And the minute it becomes a massive source of stress, you need to think, right, okay, I need to take a little break from that and then go back into it with a fresh head. And that's exactly what I did. You know, I ended up blasting like 3 designs out really quickly. Like I did sort of 3 minimalistic designs in one day. And that was really cool because I'd not drawn in ages. I say ages, for me, it was ages. It would probably been a few days, but just don't be afraid to give yourself breaks. Don't be ashamed to give yourself breaks. Don't beat yourself up, because those breaks are exactly what you need sometimes. Like I found it where I could be drawing something and it could just not be going right. And sometimes I'll just start again from scratch. I'm like, this is what I need to do. It happened with the growlithe drawing. I did it and it looked the wrong shape and I couldn't figure out exactly what it was. And I was like, oh man. So I had a break, went away from it, came back to it, and I was like, okay, now I've redone it, I've redrawn it. It was soul destroying that I had to redraw it, but I did it and it looked amazing. It looked, when I say amazing, to me, it looked exactly like what I wanted, which is quite rare for me to see something exactly how I wanted it. So that was really cool. And obviously, like, I got a lot of good feedback from other people. Like, you know, you draw stuff like Pokemon and people get so excited about it. It's great. I love seeing people like, because that's something else. Like, it's not even about people buying my stuff. It's people who message me saying they like my stuff. I've got friends who tell me they like my stuff, and it's like, that's amazing to me because it gives me such a boost. It makes me feel so good about my work and what I do. It's like, oh man, you know, someone's seeing that and they thought it's really good, and you know, it took me so much time, or you know, I put a lot of effort into it, and it's amazing to see that people appreciate what goes into it.
Yeah, brilliant. That's really helpful, Chloe. Thank you so much for that. Do you want to point people towards where we can see your work? So we mentioned your Etsy shop. So you're under Slayer-1Artwork, is that right?
So on Etsy, I'm just Slayer-1Artwork. Basically, it's hard because like some places don't like certain you know, like certain types of digits. You know, what's the word? I don't use the word digit, but it's like
characters.
Yeah, characters. That's exactly it. On Etsy, I'm just Slayer-1Artwork, no spaces. Slayer as in the band Slayer. Fun facts behind the name.
Yeah, go for it.
So I mean, I'm a massive metal fan anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, more sort of like death metal, but that's not the point. And you know, like Player One, I saw something to do with like Scott Pilgrim, which is one of my favorite comics. And it was like Player One, and they changed the name to Slayer One. I thought, oh man, that's so funny. Especially when I was younger, I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I was like, okay, that's my name, and it's just sort of stuck. But yeah, so on Etsy, it's Slayer-1Artwork. On Instagram, it's Slayer_1Artwork. And I also happen to have a Facebook page, which is just like Slayer-1Artwork. Which again, it's annoying because some of them are different, but some of them don't allow certain characters. But yeah, that's where you can find me. My Instagram and my Instagram's the main place that I post to, because sometimes I'll post work in progresses on my story, or you get to see some of my cool goth stuff on my story, or I do share a lot of other art pages on there. I think it's really important. And some advice for people: if you're feeling uninspired, watch a really cool film, as in like watch like an animated film, like, you know, Into the Spider-Verse, or watch some Studio Ghibli stuff. And if you're not into that, like read some comics or read books or watch a TV show. There's so many things where you could get ideas, or play a game, or listen to music. You know, there's some of my designs which are directly based off of music that I've heard, or you know, there's a design I've been thinking about for ages, and I tend to think about my designs a lot before I do them, and then one day I'm just like, I'm doing it. And there's a song called Possession by Whitechapel, and that's something where I wanted to do like a really cool piece of sort of like a girl sort of like clawing her face, and it's like, again, a really sort of like dark and destructive sort of drawing. But yeah, I've got loads of stuff that I'm sort of planning on doing. I just think if you're feeling really uninspired, you don't have to draw. Just watch things that'll inspire you. Write it down. There's no pressure. The world's not going to end if you don't draw that night. Just, if you want to be inspired and you want to feel creative, just do it. Just do it, everything you can, because if you're going to sit and self-loathe, you're just limiting yourself then.
Yeah, I think you said something earlier as well about it's quite easy to have a pen or a pencil and a bit of paper, and you don't even need to think about it. Just have them in your hands and just see what comes out.
Exactly.
Just start messing about.
I find a lot of artists have the same problems, where it's like you sit there in front of a blank sheet of paper for ages and you're like, gosh, I just want to draw. And you're like, oh man, I've been sat in front of this blank piece of paper for hours, or, you know, I've rubbed out so many different stuff. And if it gets to that point, my best advice is to take a break.
Yeah.
Take a break, make a brew. That's what I tend to do. Or go talk to someone. Even though I don't live with one of my best friends anymore, Matt, a lot of the time when we were drawing together, it's like I'd always say to him, and we'd say to each other, take a break. Just take a break, and then we'd come back and we'd do some artwork. It'd be exactly what we wanted, or it'd be even better than what we wanted. And if you don't want to take a break, if you're lucky enough to have an artist, friends who are artists like I am, send them a photo of it and say, does this look right? Because it's not about like fishing for compliments or anything like that. It's like, something looks wrong with this and I can't see it. Can you have a better understanding? Like, my friend Ben, or he's got a much better understanding of anatomy than me, and I could draw a face and be like, Ben, there's something wrong with this face and I can't figure it out. And it's like, oh yeah, it's this. It's like, it's not about criticizing in a negative way, it's a really positive way. They want you to do well, which is why they're telling you how to fix it.
Yeah, and it's just fresh eyes on something, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone ever wanted to message my art page for help at all, I'm really open to like helping anyone who messages me. If anyone wants to talk about art, comics, I'm quite an open ear for stuff like that. And if anyone's like, oh, they want advice and they want to talk to me directly, just give me a message. I'm pretty cool about stuff like that. I like to really support people because I think you get the best results then.
That's really generous of you. It's been such a joyful hour. I've really enjoyed this so much, Chloe. To be honest with you, I've had a pretty tough week. Just personally, it's been, I've had a few knockbacks and confidence has been quite low and stuff. And I just feel so positive and so energized just from talking to you for an hour. And thank you so very much for this. It's been really enjoyable for me.
Oh,
I hope it has been for you as well.
Oh, it's been amazing. Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. That's really cool. And again, you're more than welcome to message me anytime as well if you want. But that's super lovely. I'm really glad. I've had such a good time as well. I've been so excited. I've never been in a podcast before, so now I'm like, woo!
Oh, great. Well, for your very first one, you've done incredibly well. Yeah, I hope this helps get you out there a little bit more. Yeah, it's just so nice. It's been a lovely thing to do, to meet people like you through this. I feel like you're another one of my little gang that I'm compiling.
With the coolest gang, that's what it is. It's been really lovely to speak to you. Thank you very much for having me on. I can't wait to hear it.
This has been a Cozy Peapod production with me, Paula Blair. The music is Common Ground by Airtone, used under a 3.0 non-commercial Creative Commons license, and is available at ccmixter.org. To find out more, listen to episodes, sign up for our free monthly newsletter, and to get in touch, visit audiovisualcultures.wordpress.com. For extras and previews, see patreon.com/avcultures. And to support us, go to supporter.acast.com/audiovisual-cultures-podcast. Thank you so much for listening, sharing, subscribing, and rating. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.